You know, this week has been very emotional because, as you all know, on Sunday we inaugurated the canal. The locks opened, they closed, the canal went through. The following day, it also worked. So it's very emotional for all Panamanians because we were able to show the world the resiliency that Ambassador Philly was mentioned and the leadership that we have as professionals. So we put together a great engineering work, and it functioned according to plan. And now we expect to make sure that we maximize that resource into developing new industries and new businesses that will be fundamented and complemented, and will complement the expanded canal. It's also emotional to be here because 12 years ago I was a commercial counselor at the embassy in Washington, and I had the opportunity to work with Council of the Americas and Eric and Susan at that moment as well. So it's very emotional now, not only to see you guys again, but also to be here on the podium talking to a conference hosted by you guys. I'm going to start my presentation. You can see it. I'm going to start my presentation with, for those of you who come from abroad or who are watching in the telecast, with some basic information about Panama. I think most of you know we're a small country. We've been blessed with our geographic location. We're in the heart of the Americas. We have almost a little bit over 4 million people. Although we are small, we have access, through Panama, you have access to big markets in Latin America, so our population doesn't necessarily speak for what we can provide to companies and to the region and to the world. We use the US dollar since more than 100 years. We have a very low inflation rate in 2015, and it's expected to come even lower in 2016. And Spanish is our national language, although English is widely spoken in the business community. Before I move in, I also want to tell you a little bit about why we've been able to be successful. We've been enjoying sustained growth from the past decade, and we expect to continue to grow in the coming years as well. And this is mainly not only because of our position, our dollarized economy, and our logistics platform, but also because we've been historically very successful in capturing foreign direct investments from the region. And by the way, John, the U.S. is the number one foreign direct investor in Panama. So you have an easy way. Or we have to check. So we've been very successful in bringing foreign direct investments. 2015, more than $5 billion of foreign direct investment was received in Panama. And what's interesting about this figure is that 50% of that investment that was in the country is reinvestment for companies that were already in Panama. And what that really means is that companies not only trust Panama and are willing to put their capital in Panama and to start new operations in Panama, but also they're willing to expand their operation and to reinvest in the country. And that represents, the stability and the economic development that we enjoy. Also, when you compare foreign direct investment to the region, for example, out of all the foreign direct investment that came to Central America, almost 45% was received in Panama. So our ability to bring foreign direct investment is an important factor in our growth and in our sustainability. We've had, because of that, of course, we have had a low employment rates. Right now we are at about 3.8%, which is basically no unemployment. And another important factor that has enabled us to bring foreign direct investment is that we've been enjoying an investment grade since 2010, and I believe it was recently ratified, the investment grade. And the outlook of Panama with the expanded Panama Canal looks even better. Not only where economies in the region and in the emerging markets are not necessarily growing as fast as Panama, because of the expanded canal, we hope, and all the forecasts show that we will continue to sustain growth at the rate of above 5% for the coming decade. So what are Panama's competitive and unique advantages? I think there is, I still don't know where to point. Weird. So we expect to continue to grow, and the canal will be the expanded canal will be an important factor. Not only the canal, but also other businesses that somehow directly or indirectly benefit from the canal and from our location. Just since we're talking about logistics, if rankings serve as an indicator of success, we're ranked above most of our neighboring countries in Latin America, especially in the logistics performance index. We rank number 2 in Latin America, and in the world we're ranked 45. Our logistics take about 18% of our GDP as of 2015. We're ranked by the World Economic Forum. We have the 6th best airport infrastructure, the 7th port infrastructure. And pretty much when it comes to rankings, Panama stays atop of the region. However, that doesn't mean that we can continue to get better. I think especially when we compare to the world, if we want to become a global logistic hub, it's important for us to take care of the necessary weaknesses that we have and turn them into a strength. In addition to dollarized economy, logistics, the canal, foreign direct investments, we have something that not many countries can offer, and it's a second to none quality of life. For those of you who lived in Panama or who have lived in Panama, like Randy here that lived in Panama for a few years, Panama offers, a safe and secure country and quality of life that you won't find in many places. Not only because you have, access to, a first world city, but also you have very pristine tourist destinations that you can go and enjoy. And also, of course, the security of our country where you can walk around without being scared or being, without the necessity of having to have any security with you. So what makes Panama unique? What is Panama unique value proposition? I can see the whole presentation there. So what is Panama unique value proposition? Our proposition is based on our location, and I think everybody knows that we provide one of the best maritime connectivity in the world, but also we're starting to become a very important player in the air connectivity and also in the telecommunication connectivity. Through Panama, you have access to more than 1,700 ports, more than 144 trade routes. You have access to more than 160 countries, direct access. That's on the maritime side. And what's interesting is because of the success of COPA, we've been able to develop our air connectivity. And when you look air connectivity, so far we've been successful in transiting passengers. But I think there's many things we can do and many opportunities for us to grow in transportation of air cargo. And that's something that Tocumen Airport is working really hard. They have a great plan in a special economic area that they're developing, and I believe Tercero Fidanque will be one of the speakers in the panelists, and he will greatly expand on that front. As far as the air connectivity, through Panama, you connect to more than 87 cities directly. Not only the skyline changes constantly, but also our destinations. A few weeks ago, Copa announced 2 new destinations to Holguín in Cuba and another city in Peru, which I can't remember. So they give us a hard time in keeping updated our presentations on how destinations they reach. Also, we're now connecting to Europe, most important cities, France, Frankfurt, Amsterdam, and other important cities in Europe are connecting to Panama. We still have an important task to bring a direct flight from London. We're working on it with our embassy in UK to see how we can bring British Airways also into Panama. As far as telecommunication connectivity, more than 7 fiber optic cables come through Panama. When I was in Washington, it was 5 cables. Now we have 7, so it's even better. And what that translates to is more access and cheaper access to transmitting information and data, and also reliability, because the cables are redundant amongst themselves. So you reduce cost of transporting data, and also you become more reliable. And that will create for the country another potential for investment in making Panama, hopefully, data warehousing hub, the same way that we are a transshipment and a merchandise hub for the region. So our connectivity is something that no other country can offer. Through Panama, you can access most markets in Latin America and the region in quite a few days. As Ambassador González Revilla mentioned, with transporting LNG, now you save 11 days by going through the canal. So it really makes Panama to the service of global trade. So diving a little bit into Panama's logistics clusters. We have one on the occidental part of the country that is neighboring Costa Rica. It's in the provinces of Chiriquí and Bocas del Toro. We have another one in Central America. And we are actually working together with Susana and the CAF on developing the occidental logistic cluster in order to find a way to better interconnect that cluster to our main, where the action happens, which is in our main cluster, which is neighboring the Canal in Panama City and Colón. As you all probably know, we have the best and more efficient ports in the region on the Atlantic side, on the Pacific side. We also have international airports. We also have, of course, the canal, and now the expanded canal. We have a Trans-Isthmian railroad as well as a highway. And all of that, when you put all of that together, it creates the perfect storm in a good way of providing a perfect solution for companies to come into Panama and establish their regional distribution centers from Panama. Through Panama, the ports of Panama move more than 7 million containers per year. We hope to increase that with now the canal expanded. It will almost triple the capacity of containers going through, so there's also opportunities to create another port to also cater that higher demand. And again, the unique multimodal value that Panama provides is access to the region and to the local markets in times that no other country can replicate. For example, you can reach Colombia, of course, in 1 day. You can go all the way down to Santiago, Chile in 8 days. And that is invaluable, and that is why Panama will continue to foster its growth based on our logistics platform. So I want to talk to you a little bit about the logistics cabinet. You know, this is an initiative that's been in place for quite a few years. We kind of relaunched it in our administration a year and a half ago. And the idea is to create, to have all the institutions that have a relevant say in the logistics sector sit down on the same table, not only to identify potential opportunities for growth, but also to solve problems together, because there's no, if Tocumen Airport is successful in building their free zone and the air cargo capacity, the success would be greater if you're able to interconnect Tocumen directly to the ports on the Atlantic side, and also to improve the connectivity to the interoceanic area. So it is important for the logistic cabinet we meet regularly, and it is important because all the different institutions like the Panama Canal Authority, Minister of Public Works, Maritime Authority, Panama Canal, customs agencies, we work together and we sit down to develop a strategy. And the first year in our administration that we relaunched the logistic cabinet, we were working really hard, and we put many hours together with the private sector to work on an action plan. And that logistic cabinet, just to reinforce the importance of it, in order for it to be successful, it cannot only be with government officials sitting down in a table, because very easily we can deviate the attention on create these long-term plans, and we don't focus on immediate actions that can solve or that can maximize our logistics platform. So we included also, we have a consultancy advisory board with 5 members or 6 members of the private sector. They come to every meeting and they work together with us, not only in making sure that our initiatives are relevant to the private sector and to the country, but also in help us prioritizing those initiatives. We work together as well with CAF in help us identify our action plan. And we were able to identify 25 main activities. Those activities, we can group them in 4 main groups. The first one is an strategic initiatives. Pretty much through the logistic cabinet, our main objective is to create a national logistics strategy up to 2013. So next governments that come in have a clear path of what needs to be done for the country in order to reach the next level, in order to take advantage of the Canal, in order to take advantage of our position, in order to take advantage of our economy. So we are working really hard on developing that national strategic plan. And again, we're working together with the private sector in order for this to be relevant, in order for it to be bulletproof, and in order for the private sector to, not to force, but in order for the private sector to push that plan also for future administration. We hope to come out to finish that strategy in 2017. Also, we're making changes to the regulatory framework. For example, we're working on a new, on modernizing our customs law. We also have identified that in order for us to grow and to maximize the infrastructure that we currently have, we need to work on development of human resources. You know, education, you know, typically you will hear, you know, location, 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 but in the logistic cabinet we talk about education, education, education. So for that we are working together with, again, with multilateral agencies to help us identify programs that can be relevant. We are putting in place a very innovative and out-of-the-box education platform with the Instituto Técnico Superior del Este. It's a technical institute that will be located right next to Tocumen. We'll have direct access to the metro system. It is one of the best pieces of land available. In fact, we had to negotiate really hard with Tocumen, so it will transfer it to the Ministry of Education so we could build the center in the proper area. It's, we want that center to be very aspirational. We want it to be, we're replicating the model of Singapore. It's going to be a $200 million project. And the careers that are going to be taught there are going to be mainly focused on information technology, logistics, engineering, and also competencias blandas, which is, you know, ethical values, you know, leadership skills, and of course, language. That center should be ready in 2018, and it will have capacity to more than 5,000 students. The idea of our administration is to leave something that will pretty much will be so good and so effective that it will have to be replicated in the coming administration. The same way the metro system is working so efficient, and I believe now all the administrations that come in for the next 25 years will really have to push a new line of metro so it really becomes an interconnected city. So we want to do the same with education. We want it to be a model center. We want it to be aspirational. And then we want the same model to be taken to the central provinces and also to the occidental provinces, mainly where those logistic clusters are located. Also, another objective of our action plan or strategy is to reinforce what we have today, to reinforce what we're doing right. And where is that located? In the area right next of the Panama Canal. You know, we have great ports, we have, you know, the railway, we have the canal, we have the Tocumen airport, but there's many things that we still have to do in order for us to reap all the advantages that we can get from our position. So as such, we have developed key actions of what to do in that area. We commissioned, the Logistic Cabinet commissioned the Panama Canal Authority to carry out a master plan of what is the best way to develop that, the pieces of land that are owned by the government and the canal in that area. That project is already underway by a leading international consulting firm. It should be ready in the next 11 months. They've been already 1 month in Panama working. And we're also working on how to better connect that interoceanic area to the other logistical clusters in the country, so we can foster more, we can foster exports of agriculture, we can bring new agro-industry to the country. And all of these areas will make Panama more competitive and will make Panama able to sustain its growth in the coming years. Also, we are working on putting technology. We also dedicate in the logistic cabinet a lot of time to see how we can innovate in the agencies that have a say in the logistic platform. And in that sense, for example, the custom agency is working really hard not only in modernizing their law, but also in modernizing and digitalizing the risk assessment tools and softwares. That will pretty much translate into being able to gather more data, to share data not only to the government to make better decisions, but also to private companies to make better decisions, and to also to identify where do we have weaknesses that we need to improve. So the idea of the logistic cabinet, the main objectives, the overall objectives, is to turn Panama to a world and an international logistic hub. So we mentioned today, and a little bit in the panel, the ambassadors and Eric mentioned, what other opportunities are beyond the canal. The canal, of course, the expanded canal will open up a brand new array of opportunities. And I'm going to briefly talk about some of them. But as you can see, I think some of them were already mentioned or will be further expanded in the panels that you'll be hearing today. But I will talk about a little bit about the Ro-Ro terminal, the LNG, also a new port on the Pacific side. As I mentioned before, the expanded canal will triple the capacity of containers and of cargo going through the canal, and that creates more demand and a great opportunity for Panama to do a new mega port on the Pacific side. That will be on the west side of the city, and the idea for it will be a development in an area of more than 120 hectares. It will have the capacity to attend directly or simultaneously more than 5 post-Panamax vessels, and it will have the capacity to handle more than 5 million TEU. This project is being led by the Panama Canal Authority, and it's interesting that it will, the capacity will be more than 5 million TEUs per year. Currently, we move 7 million TEUs, so once we complete this port and we get this project underway, Panama will almost double its capacity. So not only U.S. ports need to be ready for the expanded canal, but Panama also needs to build more ports in order to be ready to take advantage of the canal. Most of the current ports have already completed or are in the process of completing important expansion processes. But also, we believe that now we will have the opportunity to build a new terminal with larger capacity because of the expanded canal. Also, as we discussed previously in the panel, there is a great opportunity for an LNG terminal. The Canal Authority is also carrying out a feasibility study to see what's the best place to set up this terminal. And it will have the capacity to serve other markets in the region and to redistribute LNG to the regions. It will also have the capacity to supply 2 new power plants that are based on LNG that are being built in Colón, one by AES and the other one by a Chinese group. And those are more than $2 billion in private investments. And I'm sure Mr. Miguel Bolinaga will further expand on what they're doing with AES in Colón. Another opportunity, well, I mentioned before, the master plan for the interoceanic region and for the areas owned by the Panama Canal will create, something that I think we still have we haven't opened our eyes to the things that we could do in those areas. There's a great need to create, trucking centers, to create value-added multimodal platforms. There's great need to do distribution centers that will be close to the ports, close to the canal, close to the airport, access to both oceans. So that's also another great opportunity that is being created because of the greater cargo that will go through the Panama Canal. Also, the same way that Panama is a transshipment for containers, now with the economies of scale that we're getting because of the expanded canal, there's also great demand to create a roll-on, roll-off terminal on the Pacific side. So we can also become not only a world-class hub for transshipment of cargo, but also a hub for distributing to the region vehicles and heavy equipment. So we've been successful in growing mainly because of our logistics sector, of our canal, of our geographic location. But we did something very right about 10 years ago, and that was create special economic regimes that has been able to multiply or to take advantage of our geographic position. And in some way, they are indirectly related to our multimodal logistic platform in Panama. Not only 10 years ago, but also 50 years ago when we created the Colón Free Zone. These economic regimes, I believe most of you already know. I'm going to go really brief over each of them. And they pretty much create the proper environment and the proper climate for companies to take advantage. They have fiscal incentives, they have labor incentives, they have immigration and custom incentives. And those regimes has been critical in helping Panama attract foreign direct investments. In fact, with the multinational headquarters law, which is the first regime that I'm going to briefly mention, we've been able to attract many Fortune 500 companies to relocate their regional operations in Panama. We've been able to attract in less than 9 years and change more than $800 million of foreign direct investments. We have created more than 5,000 new high-quality jobs. And the good thing is that the companies that are taking advantage of this new law or this new regime are not only, they come in for one service and they are expanding their operations. This regime is pretty much based on providing big multinational companies a backup or back office services to other companies in their same economic group. And we have, I think the logos speak for themselves. Very well-known companies have opened up their headquarters in Panama. It all started with Procter & Gamble that moved more than 1,000 expats to Panama. And again, that was successful not only because we created the business environment, but we also had the quality of life for their expats. I think something that Eric mentioned and I want to reiterate is certainty. Panama has a strong rule of law. We have a strong financial sector. And all of these things put together create a no-brainer opportunity for multinational companies to relocate into Panama. Another regime is, as you all know, the Colón Free Zone. The Colón Free Zone, that's also the Logistics Cabinet is looking into it. We have commissioned also a consultancy to see if the necessity to create a new strategic reorientation of the Colón Free Zone, to see if the model that we have available right now, if it is going to be sustainable for the next 20, 30 years. And traditionally, the Free Zone has been an import and re-export emporium. Nowadays, it has shifted little by little into becoming also a regional distribution center for companies such as, Diageo, LG, Samsung, and Nike, Pele shoes that move more than, they sent more than 22 million pairs of shoes to Latin America in 2015, which is quite amazing. And that doesn't include Peru because they don't export Peru from here. So, companies are really looking into Panama not only to offer backup services to the same companies in the economic group, but they are betting on Panama on establishing their distribution hubs to the region. Panama Pacifico, which is located on the Pacific side, probably most of you already know. It's a one-of-a-kind project that has a master plan that mixes not only commercial space, but also residential and industrial space. This, I think, Panama Pacifico will really reach its potential once we complete the fourth bridge over the Panama Canal, and once we have the third line of the metro connecting the west side of the city to the main to our city and to the interoceanic logistic cluster. Right now, Panama Pacifico has over 1 million square meters of commercial space, or that's part of the master plan. They will build more than 20,000 high-end housing. So it provides a perfect environment for companies not only to set up their offices there, but also for their expats to live there. Right now, they have more than 8,000 companies creating more than 4,000 new jobs and high-quality jobs and high-paying jobs in the region. They have quite incredible operations. I had the opportunity to visit the operation of 3M. It's amazing. By the way, Ambassador, I have to take you there, both ambassadors. If you haven't seen it, it's something that we could do maybe tomorrow morning if you have time. What they're doing from Panama Pacifico, you know, it makes Panamanians really proud. They create all, in the automotive industry, all the esponjas to polish cars. They create them in Panama and they distribute all of that to Latin America. So when you see these things, how do you say esponjas? Sponges, but no, it's like those polishing materials for the automotive industry. When you see that, it says not only distributed from Panama, but made in Panama. And that's something that Panama, in order to take advantage of the canal, is something that we have to shift a little bit our economy into developing a strong industrial sector and, you know, create value-added and high-tech value-added in order to export from Panama, not only re-export products. So that's something that the Minister of Commerce is working really hard. And by that, we are promoting a new law. We are negotiating with the Minister of Economy and Finance the incentives. We are promoting a new law to further enhance our current multinational headquarters law in order to expand the incentives not only to back office services, but also to provide light manufacturing and other activities so companies can like 3M, can also open new operations from Panama. Also, we are pushing forward a new law to promote industry. We are doing another consultancy work that should be completed in the next 3 or 4 weeks, trying to identify which incentives needs to be placed, what our competing countries are doing in terms of industry, whether our special economic regimes are competitive to what other countries are doing. So I think Panama, in the rest of the 6 months we're going to have pretty good news to do in order to set up the fundamentals for Panama to continue to grow for the next decade. In addition to Panama Pacifico, we have another regime, which is the free zone regime. And the main difference between this regime is that, you know, developers and private companies can set up a free zone anywhere in the country. And they will enjoy, as well, several fiscal incentives. The idea for this is to, you know, to promote manufacturing, you know, assembly, R&D, and high technology manufacturing to redistribute to the region. And you can do many things with this free trade zone, not only also shifting from the regular, you know, logistics that we do in Panama. And one, I believe, very successful initiative that we have in Panama is the diamond exchange and the jewelry exchange. They are, in fact, a free zone. And what they're doing is trying to create a marketplace in Panama for the jewelry business. And the idea is to take advantage also of our network of free trade agreements, especially with the U.S. And the idea is to bring jewelry and diamonds from abroad, do light manufacturing and create a finished product, and then re-exporting them to a finished product to countries in which we have free trade agreements and enjoy important advantages. So with the free trade zones, you can be quite creative, not only the regular manufacturing of goods, but you can also get creative like the Diamond Exchange did. So, we've talked a little bit about what has been the driver of our economic growth. And one of the questions that was raised in the panel before is, what other things are available in Panama besides logistics? We need to, although we have a diversified economy, we have identified 3 new sectors that are going to play an important role in Panama and the development of the country, and as well, of course, create important opportunities. And those are energy, the energy sector, the mining sector, and tourism. The energy sector, for a country that is growing, it implies more consumption of energy. A country that is aspiring to become more industrialized requires to have a more competitive energy market. And also, for all these initiatives that we already have, it's important to have a responsible and a sustainable energy policy. And as such, we recently launched a policy that came out of a dialogue together with the private sector and the public sector, in which by 2050 we expect that 20% of the energy produced or generated in Panama comes from renewable sources. That is with a main emphasis on wind power and also solar panels. Also, there are many new power plants being created and new hydroelectric plants coming online in the coming months and years. So it is important, the government also have an important packages of investment that represents more than $700 million, either expanding our transmission lines or building new transmission lines in order to bring this new energy that is going to be required in the next few years when the power plants come online, in order for that energy to come into the city. And if we are able to lower the cost of energy in Panama, we're going to be able to attract more companies, to attract more light manufacturing, to attract more high-tech companies, to be able to maximize our data center capabilities that we want to exploit, and hopefully convert Panama in something, create something different that we have done in the past. And for that, it is important for the energy sector to become more efficient, and we are rising to the occasion and preparing all the necessary investment for that to happen. The mining sector, is something that is growing really quick. We believe that by 2018, mining commodities will be our main exports, reaching more than $2 billion. And this is mainly geared with the largest private investment project in Panama. It's being carried out by First Quantum. It's a Canadian company through Minera Panama, their local subsidiary. It's a copper project. It's about $6.5 billion of investments that will even surpass the investments of the Panama Canal, including all the claims that the contractors have. So it's going to be quite an investment. And the mining sector will, they are also not only doing a mining project, this company, it's also doing port infrastructure to bring in the materials and to export the materials, but they're also doing a new power plant as well. So it's quite attractive, the mining sector. We are working at the Ministry of Commerce really hard on modernizing our mining law, which dates back to 30, 40 years ago. I think we have a lot of potential in this market if we are able to accommodate our law and create the proper incentives and have a sustainable and environmental mining projects in our country. Last but not least, our tourism sector. We've been able to grow at double digits in bringing more tourists to Panama in the past few years. The expectancy is also that for that double digits to maintain, mainly because of the connectivity, the air connectivity that we have through Tocumen Airport that is currently going through an expansion phase, and also because of the increased presence of the Hub of the Americas in the region, and also the connectivity we're bringing with tourists from Europe. In the tourism sector, all of you know what we have to offer in the city and in the beaches, but I want to talk to you a little bit about what we're doing in the city of Colón. The Colón city used to be a great destination. However, for some reason, it was abandoned, many years ago, and Colón was mainly focused on, port infrastructure, logistics, Colón Free Zone. But they have in Colón a great old quarter, a casco viejo that is, very similar to the French Quarter in New Orleans, and it's something that for Panama to really become a tourist destination, we need to be able to bring more cruise ships. And the market for cruise ships, it's on the Atlantic side and the Caribbean. So the government of Panama is investing more than $800 million in the city of Colón in a project that we've called Renovation of Colón. We will improve its infrastructure. We will build new housing solutions. We will restore historic buildings. And we also recently passed a law that we call Colón Freeport that will provide incentives for the private investors that come in and buy or refurbish existing buildings and set up new businesses in Colón. And the idea is to accompany the public investment in the city with private investments, and with the purpose of making Colón an international shopping center. And not only the incentives are for the investor that comes in and buy a piece of property and restores it or opens a business, but the law provides for incentives for tourists to come in and buy products free from import duties and exempted from value-added tax. It also provides an exemption for Panamanians up to $1,000 every 6 months to go buy products in Colón. So the idea is to make Colón an important focal point of attracting more tourism. And that is being done by public investments, but also with an interesting piece of law to attract private investments. Last, in regards with the tourism, we're also in the process of completing a new convention center that will be on the Pacific entrance of the Panama Canal. That should be completed in it's 2 years, so 24 more months. And the project is running a little bit behind because we have some issues with the previous contractor, but we were able to get it off the ground, and it's already in the redesign phase. And recently, President Varela went to the site to do kind of an important kickoff, because not only the redesign was already completed, but now the construction work is already in place. So Panama will position not only as a destination for tourists to come in and enjoy a vacation, but also a destination for companies to do conventions in Panama. And of course, that will translate into more money being distributed into our economy, diversifying again what we can do from the Canal and the logistic platform. Last but not least, I want to talk about two important projects that the government is carrying out. The first one being the second line of the metro system, which it's already on its way. It's a $2 billion investment, public investment. It should be completed late 2018, early 19. And we're also in the process of bidding out the third line of the metro. We have already awarded the PM for the project, and we hope to get that tender out before 2017. And the idea is for the line 2 of the metro to connect, the west part of the city, which is an area that is growing really fast in the city, to connect that to the main, to Panama City. And that will bring, it will improve the quality of life. It will further improve the special economic areas that we have on that side. And it will also further connect our other logistic clusters that we have on the west side of the city. Also, as I mentioned before, and it's something that is very related to our logistics sector, we have the plan to build a fourth bridge over the Panama Canal. That bridge will be over $1 billion investment. we were able to secure a few months ago in Japan a $2.6 billion financing with the government of Japan in order to build this bridge. The project manager has also been awarded already, and the tender for this project should be out this year, in late 16, or at least that's the idea. So these two main projects, as well as the other opportunities that I have mentioned in the past, will further enhance what Panama has to offer to international investors, but also to the international community and to international commerce and trade. So I want to thank you all for being here and for listening to this presentation. I think you have very good panelists coming after me that will further expand on some of the things that I have touched to. I believe our good friends Gustavo Ripoll from there will also touch on how the multinational headquarters law came into play to set up shop in Panama and to expand their operations in Panama. So you're going to have a really good audience. Thank you very much. And last but not least, I want to thank you all, the private sector, for being, our real partners in making Panama what it is today. Thank you very much.